My life be like, ooh, yeah, ooh. My life be like, ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah, ooh. My life be like, yeah, ooh. My life be like times like these that make you say, yeah, Lord, if you see me, please come my way.
From Baton Rouge, Louisiana, please welcome Peter Mata.
My life be like times like these that make you say, yeah, Lord, if you see me, please come my way. Like leaving breadcrumbs for when I stray. Yeah, I'm sacrificing the price you pay. Like living like a fingertip. Sometimes I fall, I slip. Yeah, my heart feels I be more like you. Try not to put the fire with the things I like. Be like times like these that make me say, yeah, Lord, if you see me, please come my way. Like leaving breadcrumbs for when I stray. Yeah, I'm sacrificing the price you pay. Like living like a fingertip. Sometimes I fall, I slip. Yeah, my heart feels I be more like you.
All right, everyone. Welcome in to the Anaks podcast. This is Ryan, your Anak, with Peter, the Anak, as well, joined together
Hello
for
again.
this podcast segment. Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you guys are all doing well. Hopefully, you guys are all staying safe. Thank you again for tuning in to our podcast. We've loved your support up to this point. We love the comments that when they come in, and all around, we're just very grateful that you guys are supporting us, and make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not already, as well as hitting that like if you enjoy the content of this video. Today, we will be talking about college. We're going back to college, Peter.
Oh, yeah. I feel
Oh,
young
man.
again.
Oh,
I just
man.
graduated from college.
Welcome. It's college day today, and college football talk today, in a very interesting and different, to say the least, college football season as it started so far. A couple weeks in, for most of the conferences, but yeah, college football is back. I know Peter and myself, huge college football enthusiasts, follow it pretty much every year of our existence prior to this year. But yeah, I wanna get to know, Peter, how you're feeling about this year. We're gonna touch base on obviously, of course, LSU Tigers are reigning national champions, and everything in between. But yeah, Peter, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Again, like Ryan was saying, happy that y'all are all viewing us, liking, subscribing, feedback, good and bad, whatever it is. Thank you for viewing and supporting us as we continue this channel. Yeah, we are going back to college. Obviously, you can see here I'm a big LSU Tiger fan. I've mentioned in a previous podcast I graduated twice over. I recently graduated, so I'm not going too far back, really just a few months ago. But college football is back, thank goodness. Maybe it's not all the way back like we're normally seeing it, but we got news a few weeks ago that the Big Ten is going to be coming back with an eight-game schedule in their conference in October. Even the Pac-12 is coming back, 7-game schedule in their conference early November. And as we just saw, the SEC and ACC and all the other big conferences are coming back slowly. They have played some games. So it's been a different season, but at least we have football. And again, this season, maybe it's going to be tough to determine a champion, but we're just happy to see them play. I mean, again, we mentioned this in a previous podcast about college football, is that, imagine last year you don't see Joe Burrow play in a game. That's money out of his pocket. He wouldn't have been the number one pick going into that year if he didn't play last year. So this season is really about the players and advancing their careers. So if you're a player, this is the time to rise and shine. So we're happy to see them play. Hopefully everyone plays as well as they can. Just happy to see it. Again, LSU, what we're expecting to see in COVID-19 right now in Louisiana, 25% capacity. So it looks very odd. There's no tailgating. That's something you truly hate to see. And just to give you kind of a context and reference of, I guess, the culture, I'd like to ask Ryan here about his experience, his first-time experience last year when he came down for the LSU-Arkansas game back in, I think, November.
Oh yeah, knock. Oh man,
Story time.
to hop in a time machine and go back to that weekend, and that day in specific, oh man, the amount of money I would pay to do that, exponential. So my first ever football game, Peter, was that game, college or
Really?
NFL level. That was my very first football game. And for the viewers, it was last year, 2019. Obviously, we know what LSU did. So it was their magical year. They were playing Arkansas in November. Arkansas, I mean, world beaters by any stretch of the imagination is never in doubt, never in
Big
question.
Suey.
Oh man, I think LSU was like a minus 45 point favorite in that game. Obviously blowout, but the game itself, obviously going into it, I was so excited just because it was my first football game. But I think with that day in specific, I realized that yes, the football game and what goes on the actual field, so fun to watch, so fun to be a part of, but equally as fun is the events leading up to that. It's the tailgate experience, if you will. And with Peter, he showed me around. I mean, we went to what was that place where we got the smoothies from, Peter?
We went to Spanky's.
Oh, Sprankish.
Got us some daiquiris just for the road. Just it's a long walk from parking to my friend's tailgate. Shout out to Key and Tees for allowing us to join his tailgate near the Greek Theater.
Shout out, yes sir.
Yeah, and we got a little Spanky's daiquiris and
Oh my gosh,
walked all across the campus, excuse me, and got a little lit.
Oh man, Liddy 5000. Yeah, we went to Spanky's, first time ever going there. Peter kind of just showed me the whole experience. Phenomenal host. Again, Peter, I can't thank you enough for that weekend. But Saturday in itself, went to Spanky's in the morning or close to noon time because it was a night game. I'm glad that they flexed it into a night game because the night game gave us the whole day for extravagant activities to unfold. Shenanigans, if you will. So, with the whole tailgate experience, that's the first time tailgating. We had Spankies and we had those daiquiris as we were kind of walking along, as it is a little bit of a trek into Death Valley, into where the stadium is from where we parked. Met up with Peter's friend, who was hosting the tailgate, and it was, I mean, amazing experience. We were playing games, the whole beer pong, rage cage, all that stuff, all the fun stuff. Having a grand old time. And as we know, we were waiting for our LSU Tigers a couple hours away from stepping the field, but just wait, we got the band coming out, and the band came out, and me and Peter, we were, front row. Listening to that band, the LSU band. I'm sure they're award winning. I'm not 100% sure, but I will say they were award winning in my book because did they put up a show? Man, that band was on point all around. Just leading up to the game, got you hyped up. And for me, first time ever going to Death Valley and watching a game, that whole, pre-game experience was just phenomenal. I mean, you see the energy, you feel the energy, and it's just all around. You got tailgates left and right as far as the eye can see. And then everybody, every time you would pass another tailgate, friendly, so friendly. Oh, come on in, that hospitable environment that, the South is accustomed to being known for, but still you felt it in a football atmosphere. And for someone first time ever experiencing that, I mean, it didn't let down, and it exceeded my expectation by a long shot, and it was amazing. And then as we entered into the stadium, we got there a little bit early, so we got to see, Joey B warming up. You got to see Shamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, all those guys, getting warmed up for the game. And it was just amazing. I mean, we were sitting in the student section, so obviously the atmosphere was par none. And it was just an amazing experience all around. And I could gladly say, as someone that's been a lifelong LSU fan, lifelong football fan, it had lived up and even exceeded and surpassed my expectation from what a football game is. And that's why I can say I'm glad I did it the time I did it, because obviously we know now how things has transpired just from a worldwide angle on the way things are done from an interaction standpoint. You can't beat that. And I think that college really sets the standard on how things should be. I know I'm a big, soccer fan, and I know, overseas in Europe, they do great things soccer wise to make that atmosphere the way it is. But I think when you come to the US, college football, and in specific SEC football, tailgating and the overall experience at a game, you can't beat it. And that solidified it. My experience solidified it. Amazing. And I thank you again, Peter, for that experience. But yeah, definitely highlights of Spankies before the game, those daiquiris. Oh, they spank you. They don't get that name for no reason. They spank you. And then just the overall thank you to your friend again. Tailgating was freaking amazing.
Golden Land
Time of our lives. Shout out to the band. And then just the like I said, man,
I was pretty lit
the
by
band.
that point, so I was doing
The band. Oh yeah. Oh, I felt like I was one of the drumsticks, and I was just going. and then obviously we know how the game went. They murdered Arkansas. Slow start to that game, but then they just went off in the second, third quarters. Just never in doubt. I think they won by 36 points, something along those lines. Amazing experience. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up, and thank you, Peter, for asking that. Just due to the fact that you mentioned it, 25% occupancy now and no tailgating. That has to take a massive, massive impact on the overall college football experience, college football landscape. Although I know that it is for good reasoning because of the pandemic, and health of everyone is priority number one. But I think when we're just viewing this under the college football landscape and microscope, it does take a lot away. I can imagine it takes a lot away from the fans and the students attending LSU, as well as the players too. But Peter, I'd like to get your take. You're there. You're in Baton Rouge. You're in Tigerland itself. Only a few miles away from the stadium. How has the vibe been with those lifelong Tiger fans, with yourself too, with how things are transfolding?
It's definitely different. It just feels dead. I've seen pictures just around campus, the before and after sort of thing, where it's usually a normal game day versus right now what it's looking like. It's just completely different. It doesn't even look like a school day. It's completely different. It's a ghost town. Unfortunately, this pandemic, you really truly hate to see it. I understand there's really no, right decision to make. You want health conscious, you want people to be healthy, but we are missing out on the college football. I'm glad they're playing, but this is such a huge thing for culture and everything like that. And it's not just a good time. It's really just for people to come together and enjoy culture, enjoy each other. And we're all missing out on it. Hopefully we can get it back as soon as possible, as health allows and safety allows. But it is something that's definitely tough to see. And yeah, it is different. I'm telling you, it's completely different. It's dead out here, and hopefully we improve it.
Yeah, Anak, and that's the reason why both you and me have loved college football our whole lives is that environment, is that atmosphere that it provides week in and week out, especially when it comes to like a conference game, SEC game. That environment, even though it was Arkansas, the game we attended last year, even though it was an opponent that was unmatched with LSU, moments in that game, you just felt the energy throughout the whole stadium. It was
Palpable.
just absolutely palpable.
Shaq was there.
Shaq Daddy was there. And we were maybe a few 100 feet away from him, but
we could touch him basically. So
we could touch him. Yeah. And he was there. And just even when he came onto the field, he made an appearance, the student section just absolutely erupted. We were going crazy. Those fight songs and those anthems, they're still stuck in my head, man. And it's unfortunate to see the year kind of go on as it's been going on. But at the end of the day, of course, we're happy that they're at least playing. For some of the players also that have that draft capital, they can still make that impact to solidify the rest of their careers from a financial aspect and potentially make the NFL. And also for the fan, just the fan in us, we're glad to see it happening, but also we have to be very cognizant of what's going on health-wise around the world, around the US. But yeah, that's just kind of a big takeaway as far as, the impact this year has with the COVID pandemic, as opposed to previous years. College football, it's all about that atmosphere and environment, and something that we haven't seen or we probably will not see this year and moving forward. Now we'll talk about the actual games that have been playing. Peter, you've gotten to at least watch a little bit more than I have. I unfortunately have not been caught up to the likes of how much I would like to be caught up with college football, but there's been some upsets. Talk about them.
Yes, there has been some upsets, some that has made me upset. But I'll start with the Big 12, a couple of the teams. Number 3, Oklahoma, and then number 3, Oklahoma. And I think there was a second game. Lost to Kansas State. Close game, but I mean, Oklahoma, you expect to win that. They come back the next week, lose another close game to Iowa State. What are those? What are you doing? Lincoln Riley, come on now. I'm not going to say he's on the hot seat, but I know it's COVID and they don't have the normal practice time or whatever, but that's very concerning for them. And another concerning team in the Big 12, Texas, almost losing in the first game against Texas Tech. They were number 8 ranked. They've got they're top 10 in recruiting. So Texas was expected to do big things, especially the last couple of years with Sam Ehlinger as their quarterback. He's expected to be a Heisman hopeful. Then they lose after a close call against Texas Tech. They lose the next week to TCU. Tom Herman, what are you doing? I'm not going to say you're on the hot seat, but come on now. Same thing with Lincoln Riley. Both concerning. You know, Tom Herman was someone that LSU was thinking about getting. Thank goodness we didn't get him.
Coach O, baby.
Look, he had a good record at Houston. I was interested. If he'd gone to LSU, I would have supported him, but good thing we stuck with Coach O. Now, getting back to the upsets I'm upset about. Defending champs, LSU Tigers. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Didn't come out to play against Mississippi State. Sorry to say, it was not very good. It was not championship worthy. Miles Brennan, he needs to improve. He has improved this week. Last week against Vanderbilt, he has shown improvement. But the hesitancy in the pocket. Look, I'm not trying to make him out to be Joe Burrow, and I hope no one else is. I mean, we want to hold him to that standard. That's the best you can be. But
yeah,
you know, first-time starter. I mean, come on, you've been in this offense for a year. You've been under Coach O for 4 years now. Kind of expect a little bit more leadership, carry the load. He looks a little hesitant in the pocket. You know, a little bit more composure. Just calm down. Look, trust your offense. Trust your preparation. Some people are questioning his preparation. I think if you trust your preparation, you do your film work, you'll be composed. You'll be fine. Just trust it. And that's the thing. It's been tough to see. He's improving. Hopefully he can keep it going. I do feel good though about LSU going forward. I think they're gonna pull off some upsets, whether it be against Florida or Alabama. A little TBH there. I think they're gonna beat Florida. That's my TBH.
Okay.
I'll make that one a final TBH on that one. I think they're gonna.
What about Bama?
I'm not gonna go there yet.
Yeah.
Hold me on that, but I think.
Yeah, we've only seen them 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think Miles Brennan will get it together and the team will get it together. Defense was awful against Mississippi State, by the way. I know Bo Pelini is new and everything like that, but 600 yards. KJ Castillo, come on now. What is this?
I'm going to ask you, Peter. I've heard from sources that was the most yards ever in a game in SEC history. Can you confirm or deny that?
I can confirm that. I believe that's what was said over the broadcast. And I guess
Someone told me that, and I'm like, there's no way. I mean, SEC is such a historical conference. I mean, there's got to be a performance that tops that one. And oh my! And for it to happen against our Tigers and
Mississippi
the reigning
State
national champs, and Mississippi State, who goes on the next week, who they lost. They lost last week. They lost last week. Oh man! But yeah, that's definitely an upset. Some of the stuff that you're saying, Peter, I'm reacting to for the first time. So viewers, obviously, please take that into account because I haven't been able to follow college football to the likes that I've wanted to. But the LSU one definitely, when the result came, it was just, what's going on? And Peter, you're the first one I wanted to hear the reaction to for that. But I mean, still so early in the year. So you got time. I know you said Florida is going to be a lock in, pencil it in, put it on the board. They're going to beat Florida. Alabama, different story. We'll get to the Alabama team in a little bit, but yeah, regarding the upsets, I mean, the Oklahoma one, I mean, that's two times already. I mean, this is a team and this is a coach, as you mentioned, Lincoln Riley. I mean, he's not in the hot seat because he has, two Heisman Trophy winners in the last 3 years, but I think overall that's concerning because you're in a Big 12 conference that, I mean, competition is pretty good, but it's not like SEC competition by any stretch. So concerning with that. But yeah, there has been a lot of upsets so far. A lot of upsets. Interesting.
Texas too. They've been just like I said. They've been disappointing under Tom Herman. I mean, they had good records. It's just some of the big games they are the games you should win. They just haven't been quite convincing.
Yeah. I Anaks.
Yeah, and I mentioned also, I just want to say, I know I was on a Tiger rant there, but I guess we can't expect too much out of them. Look, they're still riding high. I still trust Coach O. They're riding high on a championship. Obviously, COVID, everyone can use an excuse, but we're all playing under the same rules with COVID. So, I'm giving them time. I still trust Coach O. I think a little bit falls on him, lack of a preparation. But look, they've got new coordinators, obviously a new quarterback at the helm, new players pretty much playing in starting positions. So while I was on a Tiger rant, I still have faith that we're going to get it together. We're going to find a rhythm. So
yeah, and I'm glad you brought that point up too, Peter, because yes, we're so fresh off of that incredible magical season that we just witnessed. Undefeated, Joe Burrow, and then a lot has changed. Really, a lot has changed this year. Jamar Chase is no longer suiting up right now as he opted out of the season. And then Brady has gone to Carolina. So there's a lot of moving pieces still. And of course, the most important position, we'll always stress this, is the quarterback. And what we saw from Burrow last year, I mean, that hasn't ever been done in general from the history of college football. So let alone, we can't really have that expectation or set that for Miles Brennan. Otherwise, we're just going to be disappointed in the long run because it's going to be a new year, but definitely I think with the talent, we're still going to be able to compete week in and week out, but we're not going to be expected to do what we did last year and just absolutely blow everybody out of the water every game we play them. So different year and different expectation as we should have as LSU fans. But I think going into this year, we have to be just prepared for the absolute unexpected. I mean, that's just how 2020 has unfolded. So, I mean, as LSU fans, very similar, very, like I said, last year will be forever embedded in the LSU history. That's fine. We have to move on though, but we still always reminisce and we talk about that, but we have to move on to this current team and focus in on that and seeing what their opportunity is. But yeah, Peter, I want to also get your surprising teams in the top 25. So some colleges that have surprised you so far in their play or the fact that they've inched their way up into the top 25. I want to hear them. What are they?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've got 3 of them. 2 of them are in the ACC. The U, is it back?
Ooh,
They're number
Miami.
Yeah, they're number number 7, I think. They're in the top 10.
Oh man.
They're playing number 1 Clemson this Saturday, so we'll see if they're for real.
Good luck.
Just I mean, hey, that it's good to see them back. They have so much swagger from their history in the 1980s and 90s and hell, even the 2000s. The players that came out of there, just amazing. But this U team could be different from the past few years, so we'll see. North Carolina, Mac Brown. What's he doing up there? What's all those recruits coming up to Mac Brown, North Carolina, Chapel Hill? They too are playing a ranked team, number 19, Virginia Tech, on Saturday. So we'll see what they have in store for us. Will they continue to be a surprise team? I don't know. They're normally a basketball team, not a basketball school, but they've been surprising. They're in the top 10, just like the U is. Tennessee. Now, Tennessee is the team that I've kind of been following more since they were in the SEC. Last year, they went 8-5, and they struggled out of the gate. Pruitt put it together, and they went, I believe, 8-5 last year, won their bowl game. They're riding high on momentum. I know I kind of joke with some people. I was like, they're building momentum. They're going to win the East next year. It's a little facetious, but I mean, they have been looking good. They're in the top 25. Maybe we're going back to Phil Fulmer days. I don't know. They're playing number 3 Georgia this Saturday, so we'll see if they are a surprising team to look forward to. Those are 3 surprising teams. What are your reactions when I say those names?
Anak. I mean, the 2 ACC teams, well, Miami, they're like, the last 3 or 4 years, they've kind of been on that cusp of breaking through and really emerging themselves as that next top big dog. I mean, of course, they have had that, they have the history for sure. But I think these last few years, they're almost there. Is this the year? I think their matchup with Clemson is going to be a key indicator in whether or not they're for sure here to stay. They've been for sure impressing. I like, their culture that they've always brought, the turnover chain with the big chain that they give to whoever gets that turnover. They've been fun to watch for sure. But yeah, that's a big matchup. And I think in the ACC, it's Clemson's conference. It's Clemson's conference. And until someone can overthrow them or at least show some competitive signs, I know Florida State in the past years, Florida State is different this year, obviously, in these past few years. But before it was kind of that Clemson and Florida State battle within them. But maybe it's Miami's turn to finally, take their turn. So that's an interesting pick. And I'm glad to see that they've been doing well leading up to this point. Big game this weekend then against Clemson.
They got a chance to prove themselves.
Yep. And then same with North Carolina. I mean, you would think we would never be talking about North Carolina unless it would be a college basketball podcast. But here we are talking about North Carolina and their football program. They've been a team also, not even to the extent of Miami on how well they've been doing, but they've always been consistent in these last few years. And I think now it's one of these teams' turns to really, make that leap and bound forward. So North Carolina, not too much input I have on that, except for, I mean, we'll see. We'll go ahead and see. ACC a little bit softer when you look at the back half of the standings on that. So they have some opportunity to rack up some wins in that aspect. But when they do see the Clemsons and Miami, those are the time that they really need to show that they still got it going. Tennessee, man, a team that, I mean, they were trash a few years ago, even trash last year to begin the year, and to see that they've shifted that and now it's a winning mentality there in that program. They've been a team that impressed me, especially in the SEC, which I think is the toughest conference in all of college football by
Absolutely.
a long shot. I mean, it's not even close. Some would argue Big Ten, but no. If you look at the NFL, and I'm going to use this as the basis of my argument, you look at the NFL. Every game, it's SEC there, SEC there, SEC. I mean, look at the talent that they're producing for the next level in the NFL. It's just uncomparable. Even if you filter it down to LSU and Alabama, I mean, almost everyone you're rostering on fantasy football is a SEC grad.
That is true.
but yeah, going back to the point of Tennessee. They've been a team, and they're surprising for sure, because you saying that they're in the top 25 now, I mean, that is a surprise just off of the fact that in the last few years, they've been very poor, very, very, very poor. But I think they've had a lot of coaching changes, a lot of coaching have come and gone. And I think perhaps they found their way right now to make a breakthrough. But yeah, the surprising teams in top 25, and we'll see, because I know that football, especially in the college football playoff era, it's been more or less the same names year in and year out. But I mean, I think if 2020 has not shown us anything, it's maybe a time for change. Maybe a new team will break themselves into that mix. But we'll see, as the season is still so very young. But we'll segue now into a special shout out, and it's our last year's Heisman winner. And in my opinion, one of the best Heisman winners and the most deserving Heisman winners of all time, Joe Burrow. GOAT status.
Big Joe. What?
Big Joe. Big blank Joe. Mr. Burrow himself won the Heisman last year for our Tigers. This year, I know that there's so many different variables to look at it. Like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, I mean, some teams aren't even making that full season of games being played. How are they going to evaluate a Heisman? How are they going to eventually dwindle down the list to make that decision? Peter, I want to know some of your contenders and who have been maybe some dark horses that have emerged themselves in that Heisman list, potentially to win it all.
Absolutely. I think some two contenders that I think everyone was looking forward to coming into this year were two teams that were in the top four, and that's their quarterbacks. Justin Fields for Ohio State. I know they're only going to be playing 8 games. I mean, you have to include him. He was in the top 3 last year. He was a finalist. And then you have to also look at Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's been in the spotlight since his freshman year, national champion quarterback. I mean, people have been hyping him to here and there. He's got all the tools to be a great quarterback. And along with him on the Clemson team is the running back Travis Etienne. I've heard some little hype for him as a Heisman. So those are the 3, I guess, big names going into the season that everyone would think that's going to step up and play well. I think a quarterback that's really shown himself well this year has been Kyle Trask for Florida. Now, I won't say he's Joe Burrow level. I know I've heard that on TV a little bit, but he did play well last year when he was against LSU. He went toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow. He made a mistake late in the game in the red zone. But, man, Kyle Trask looks good. I don't like giving credit to other SEC teams, especially Florida. But, man, he does look good. He's very composed in the pocket, as I mentioned, with Miles Brennan, who has been a disappointment. I didn't think maybe he'd win a Heisman, but, I mean, with our offense we had last year, I mean, anything's possible. That's what you're thinking. But just that the contrast right now is that Kyle Trask looks very composed in the pocket, looks like he knows where he wants to go. He's got command of the offense, and he's got all the tools in terms of physical tools of making throws and even athleticism running around the pocket. So those are my picks in terms of, I guess, those 4 guys: Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne for Clemson, Florida's Kyle Trask, and then I know he hasn't even played yet, but Justin Field for Ohio State. I think those are 4 guys you definitely have to look at. I got one dark horse. I did have the Mississippi State KJ Costello when he looked like a Heisman in that first game. Maybe that was just LSU's defense, but I'm just throwing that in the trash. I don't think that's going to happen. He did have a great performance. I'll give him that, but that ain't happening.
Yeah,
I will shout out to Miami's quarterback, Derek King. I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Yep.
He's been playing well. Some have said that he looks like the next Lamar Jackson. He's 5'11", kind of that shorter quarterback, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, but I mean, he's been doing good. I'll look out for him, especially if Miami does well.
And I think with the names you just mentioned, I think speaking regarding Heisman, I think the committee and what we've seen in the last few years, the team itself got to go either undefeated or 1 loss for you to even have a shot at winning the Heisman. And what we've seen with the Oklahoma quarterbacks with Baker and Kyler winning the Heisman, and then last year Burrow, they all pretty much ran the table or had 1 loss. I think all of those teams, and then even dating back, I mean, historically, usually the Heisman winner's on a team that's undefeated. So KJ Costello, after definitely that first performance, that's on track for Heisman numbers for sure. But I think with the loss coming last weekend, kind of cancels him from the equation, unfortunately. But yeah, Clemson's quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, he's someone that has been a candidate since he stepped foot in Clemson. And you see it in the NFL, teams are tanking for him, if you will. I hate to use the word, but yeah, tanking for Trevor. So some of the throws that he makes are absolutely phenomenal too. He's someone that's shown that when he gets to that next level, he has no worry for that transition. And then Travis Etienne, explosive back. He's been there seemingly for forever. That name just seems like year in and year out, just attached to Clemson, and he's been phenomenal. Travis Etienne, even last year, too. He gave us a real scare for our money in that championship game too. And then the Florida's QB, Kyle Trask. Just hold your horses on all that Joe Burrow talk, because that's a lot. So we'll see. But yeah, that LSU Florida matchup, that's a matchup that I have circled on my calendar. I'm excited for going to be a massive game. But I think for the contender wise, out of everyone that you've mentioned, and obviously we're not going to have a back-to-back quarterback winning the Heisman in LSU, because I don't foresee Miles Brennan winning it unless he just absolutely turns the table and goes bananas. But who knows? Who knows? But I see Trevor Lawrence winning it in a landslide, if you will. I think it's going to be a
TBH?
pretty solid. Yeah, not a TBH, but definitely just from what the information that you've provided me right now, and
Final
from my
answer?
previous knowledge, I think I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence, Clemson QB and future #1 pick in the NFL draft, as my Heisman. But yeah, those names that you've mentioned, I mean, good. It's good to hear that Trevor Lawrence and ATN, I mean, kind of expected, but it's also good to hear that Kyle Trask is making a leap forward, and even Miami's De'Aaron King. Those Lamar quotes, I mean, big comparison there, especially to someone that we've seen win the Heisman and the NFL MVP overall. So very, very high praise. So I'm interested to see more from De'Aaron King as well.
It'll be a fun game this Saturday, huh? Clemson.
That's going to be a massive game. 2 of Peter's Heisman hopefuls right there in the mix right there. So we'll see how that transfolds. But I think the big takeaway definitely is also the fact that Justin Fields, as you mentioned, someone last year that definitely was a Heisman candidate, and given Joe Burrow, if he didn't have that year that he had, he would have probably been the Heisman. Justin Fields, he had an amazing year at Ohio State, but we'll see how the committee kind of evaluates the fact that their season has been compromised to an extent. But yeah, interesting. Heisman race is always fun to follow, and I think this year in specific it's going to be even more intriguing, just due to the fact that not everybody has that even fair evaluation or playing field that the committee is going off of. But yeah, good insight right there, Peter, from the Heisman candidates and some people that have impressed you. We'll segue now into we'll kind of go over the overall landscape and how which teams were supposed to be good. We'll talk about old contenders really quickly and new contenders, and then where is the pressure button clicking on, or who is it clicking on? I'd like to know, Peter, and then I'll give you my quick reaction of that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as we can all know, especially with college football lately in the playoffs, it's been just a handful of teams that's really been contending. You always have to throw in Alabama, you always have to throw in Clemson, and you always have to throw in Ohio State. So those three, I don't think they've digressed by any means in recruiting or the players that they have now. So I'm not going to be surprised if they're still there. Someone's got to come and knock them off, and that's exactly what LSU did last year. They came up and we coming, and they knocked them out, as Coach O would say. And so, yeah, it's going to take – those three are definitely going to be there. Some new contenders that you were thinking maybe would go up, definitely Florida. Florida is a team that Dan Mullen is starting to get his recruiting class in there. As I just mentioned, Kyle Trask is playing wonderful. They look good. Their defense looking solid as can be. The Gators are looking good. I don't know if they're as good as LSU was last year to where they can really step up their game, but I guess that's what we're going to see. I think they're a team to be reckoned with. They're definitely a new contender. Another new contender that you thought maybe would come up, especially with their coach now, who's been there 3 years. Unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen, as we just saw last week. Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher, this is his 3rd year there. This is that time when you have your recruits in, you have your system in, you're getting comfortable. They got blown out by Alabama last week. That's a tough go of it for Texas A&M fans. I know they were hyped because they had an easy schedule, so to speak, before COVID happened. But yeah, it's very disappointing to see them not even be competitive against Alabama. So I don't know where they go from here. And obviously, they're not going to fire Jimbo, but he's got to start stepping it up. He's got to start showing that you're competitive and that you can win the SEC West legitimately. Not just crown yourselves champion because you beat LSU in a overtime game that really shouldn't have been that long of a game, but that's neither here nor there. Some other possible pretenders, in my opinion, is Notre Dame and Penn State. They're always seemingly right on that cusp, but for whatever reason, I don't ever feel like they're ever threatening. That's just my opinion, but they're going to probably be there just because of their schedule and that they're going to have the opportunity to play against big names and actually win games too. And teams that have the pressure on constantly is because they have never gotten it done, or at least recently haven't gotten it done in the big time. And that's Georgia and Oklahoma. Obviously, Oklahoma just lost twice, so they're pretty much out for this year. But they're always disappointing in terms of their, they get to these big games and they just can never get it done. It used to be called, big game Bob Stoops or whatever, but I don't think he was the only problem. They've been struggling even with Lincoln Riley in big games. Georgia, Kirby Smart he's right there. He's got Georgia right there the last few years. He just can't quite get it over. Just like Mark Richt couldn't get quite over with Georgia. They got to do something. I think right now for them is offense. They need to get better in offense. They need to open it up like LSU did. We'll see if they do. I'm not sure. Georgia's got all the talent in the world, but those are pretty much, is that a top 10 right there? That's about top 9, top 10 right there, teams that I'm looking forward to contending or pretending. So that's just my thoughts. What do you think when I hear those names, Ryan?
Oh, man. So some of those names, sound like a broken record, huh, Peter? With the Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, names that we are so familiar with in the last, 10, 15 years of us following college football. But that Big 12, typically what we've seen is one team, either the Oklahoma. It has been Oklahoma really running that. But usually, with the college football playoff, it's like one team perhaps from the Big 12 is going to make it too. But now I think how Oklahoma has started their season, they're for sure not going to make any sort of college football playoff when that time comes. Texas, I don't see them. So now it's really like, okay, for sure, I think now 2 teams from the SEC will make it. You're going to have Clemson or potentially, as you mentioned, Miami, if they really string together some wins and they win this weekend, maybe one team from ACC. You're going to have that 2 teams from SEC, which is always so prevalent. Every year it's like Alabama and Georgia, or is it going to be LSU like last year in Alabama? Are they going to sneak their way in? But then they lost to Auburn, so that kind of shaped up itself. But I think this year, depending on how things are unfolding, usually the committee is looking at the SEC and saying, what 2 teams are we going to bring into the playoff? I think this year it kind of is easier for them because Big 12 is kind of out of the picture. And I think although they've produced some good talent from the next level we see with Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray and some of those guys, but I think from a college football lens, SEC, they've got to produce 2 teams that are going to make the playoff this year, whether it's Alabama and hopefully LSU, or Alabama and they beat Auburn. They killed or who beat Auburn? Georgia beat Auburn, or it's Alabama or Georgia, whatever the case may be. I think that 2 SEC teams will probably make it into that playoff, which leaves. We'll see how the Big 10 is, but Ohio State is usually there. Penn State's always on the cusp. Michigan with Harbaugh, it doesn't seem like
they mentioned that
they're there, but they always have the talent to at least be a top 15, top 20, top 10 even team. So we'll see that. But I think this year, from what has happened so far, disappointing Big 12. Can't discount those 2 losses from Oklahoma. And then SEC, always SEC. You're going to always have those upsets here and there, but for the most time, the cream is going to always rise to the top. And I think with Bama, they've always done that, unfortunately, even though they are a great team, a great program that they have up there in Tuscaloosa, but they're always there. And then LSU, we're going to get our feet underneath us soon, hopefully now, and push for that college football spot. And then Georgia, they've been good in the last few years.
Right there.
Yeah, that's my takeaway. But the new contenders, I don't know if they're ready yet, but if there's a year, it's this year. But yeah, definitely pressure is on from Oklahoma, which you saw. They get a couple more losses and that whole program is going to be in shambles if it isn't already. And then with Georgia, they had it, man. They were in the national championship a few years ago against Alabama, and they had that game. They had the lead. They just couldn't hold on. Like I said, the cream will rise, and Alabama did, and they continue to do so for the most part.
Sadly,
so we'll see.
For us.
Yeah, sadly for us LSU fans, but
got to admit it, they're good. Nick Saban is a great coach.
Yeah.
Got to admit it.
Yep, great program they got up there too. But last year we were the cream, and we definitely rose. So happy about that. But yeah, different year, different season, but man, a lot of names that we're used to, but at the same time, hopefully we get some new names in that mix, as you mentioned, Peter, with the likes of like a Florida or Texas A&M breaking
Notre Dame or
forward,
Penn State
Notre
actually
Dame, even
not pretending. Yeah.
Penn State. So not just pretending this year, but really actually contending. But yeah, lastly, we'll finalize this college football podcast with, let me just get how you think the national championship should be determined and who your ways away pick is. I know we're still a long
As the
ways
national
away, but
champion pick.
yeah,
Ooh, that's gonna be a tough
just
one.
one name. No here, no there, just one. Just
One
give me
name.
one name also for that.
I'll get to that, but it is going to be tough. I mean, look, like you just said, there's no level playing field. I mean, some teams are playing 7 games, some teams are playing 8 games, some are 10. It's all in the same conference. Some teams are gonna be combined unless there's 4 teams that completely distinguish themselves. It's going to be tough to distinguish who those top 4 teams are, and so with that, there's probably gonna be a lot of complaining from teams that, hey, we should have been in, hey, we should have been in. But what are you gonna do? This is what we have. I'm just happy we're playing. Hopefully, we can continue to improve player wise, and everyone still stay safe. It's going to be tough. I mean, hell, they might even go back to the old AP system in terms of choosing things by polls, but you know how that goes. But in terms of who's going to win it, my pick, hey, you got me unprepared on this one. I didn't even choose, but I'll go ahead and throw a TBH out there. I think Clemson will win again.
Dabo, man.
I don't have any logic behind it. That is a complete guess. I just have a feeling that Clemson's going to do it this year.
Early pick, and I know I put you on the spot, Peter, on it. So I'll also put myself on the spot. I haven't given much thought into it, but Clemson, I mean, gun to your head on any college football casual fan, and Clemson's not a bad pick too. But we've seen them so far this year, and they've shown that it's the Clemson of the last few years. So that's not a bad pick, especially in the ACC. But yes, we'll keep mentioning it. Big game this weekend against Miami. Big game. So depending on the outcome of that, I mean, if Clemson wins that, I mean, it's Clemson again going to the playoff. But yeah, I think this year with all the different factors and all the different conferences and how there's no even playing field, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to dwindle that list down, which is on a normal year very hard to dwindle down to 4. I mean, there's always some sort of controversy, but I think this year it's just got to be straightforward. I mean, there's going to be that committee, and I just think, even given the fact that, let's say, a Big Ten team like Ohio State or Michigan just plays phenomenally for those 8 games, it's going to be that eye test. It's going to be their overall record, and that's just going to be it. I mean, that's just going to be it.
Bare bones.
And yeah, bare bones. You just got to look at it from that perspective and that perspective only. What teams look the best when they're playing and what's their record. We don't have the likes of the analyzing the strength of schedule to an extent as we normally do, just due to the fact that the schedules are shrunk down. So that's why I think it's imperative that every team, I mean, every week is so important for even the teams that have had a longer season, but even more so for the teams that have the shortened schedule. Really go out every Saturday and just absolutely give your best performance week in and week out. That's going to be the only way that you're going to have a shot at even competing at that national championship. But yeah, I mean, we're going to still wait to see, because nothing really has been communicated out in that process yet. So teams really don't know how things are going to be evaluated from a college football playoff.
Right now, it's still scheduled. Like all the bowl games and the championship is still scheduled. So I didn't even know that until I looked it up, within the week. So who knows how it's going?
I think as the dominoes fall, then we'll kind of get a clear idea. But at this moment, like I said, Peter, just every college football team just needs to go out, put their best foot forward. Saturday, just give your best performance. And that's all you can do. Really, that's all you can do. And then let the decision-making fall into the people that are making the decision-making. So outside of that, I will give also, as I put you on the spot, I will also put myself on the spot. You chose Clemson as your pick. I'm going with the Fighting Irish,
Oh my.
Notre Dame. And do I have much knowledge backing my thesis of this? No, I really don't. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with the viewers. 2020, a year of so much unpredictability, so much things that have gone on in an unprecedented fashion. I mean, why not? This is a year for a team like Notre Dame to win it all. I mean,
Luck of the Irish.
yeah, the luck of the Irish, if you say it like that. But if you ask me to name a single player on the Fighting Irish team, I cannot. I mean, I'm just going on a whim's edge right now and just choosing something out of the hat. But I like Irish. I like the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame. I got them winning it all, not by a lot of backing, but just my gut feeling. As I kind of put you on the spot, I'll just put myself on the spot and just go for
Gun
it.
to our heads.
Gun to our heads. I mean, all right, gun to my head. All right. Gun to my head. I'm not going Notre Dame, but definitely but definitely just my, hey, like, let's make this TBH and see how it unfolds, kind of with the house money, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Put it in the airways, see how it does.
Yeah, but I mean, if it hits, it hits. If not, it's a nice little penny stock, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. This was a nice episode to kind of dip our toes more into college football. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about it too much, but we do love it. Obviously, we heard our story. We didn't even get a chance to talk about Stingley, but maybe that's another episode when he gets drafted.
Stinger. That's story time. I think that's for the viewers. I think we've already touched base on it in a previous podcast, but we can't let just the normal. You got to be able to withstand that kind of talk to be in that podcast.
So it might be rated PG-13.
We might have to make our way to Patreon for that one, brother. but yeah, a lot of fun stuff coming in the near future for this Anaks podcast, and then Peter is always pumping up those golf stories that we all love. So just look forward to more content being put out from the Anaks. Again, we hope you guys are staying safe, being well, and also just. We really appreciate the support, truly appreciate the support, Peter and myself, that you have shown to the channel, growing substantially in these just few months that we've been operating and putting out content. So that's why we stress the importance of hitting that comment box below with anything that you'd like to see from us, anything that you've enjoyed, and just some real feedback, honest real feedback, because I'm sure that me and Peter will look at every single one of those and take it to account. So Peter, it's been a pleasure as always. But yeah, any lasting words for the viewers or myself?
No, I think you pretty much said it. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. Your words mean something to me. So there.
Oh, that's right. All right, everyone. This is the Anaks podcast, and we are out. We love you, Christian.
See ya.